So welcome everyone to today's webinar entitled Get the Scoop, How to Provide 24/7 Support in 60 Minutes. My name is Lauren Krisnerick with our marketing team here at Blackboard, and I will be your moderator for the next 60 minutes. To kick off, I wanted to introduce the other two people you'll be hearing from today, Anthony Humpfreys and Stephani Johns-Hines. Anthony is a senior director at Blackboard on our financial aid and students accounts. For the past 24 years, Anthony has worked in higher education, so he knows quite a lot about improving your student services, financial aid, removing barriers to student success, retention, you name it, Anthony can help you with it. Here at Blackboard, he has helped large institutions, small community colleges, and everyone in between, and he's very passionate about his job, which I'm sure you'll hear when he speaks in just a couple of minutes. Then we have Stephani Johns-Hines joining us. Stephani is an Associate Vice President of Online Operations at Cowley College, and we're really excited to have Stephani here today. Stephani has actually been with Cowley since 1995, which is great. So she has just so much institutional knowledge, I bet, about that school to begin with. Her professional background includes more than 12 years in the legal field, and she's worked in a variety of others and also has done some textbook review. And a fun fact about Stephani, at least I thought it was a fun fact, is that she's pursuing her doctorate in education and leadership and administration. So good luck to Stephani on finishing that out, and you'll hear from both her and Anthony in a couple of minutes. First, I wanted to walk through our agenda today, as that's always something itching at people to know. We'll start by breaking it down by today's expectations of students and faculty, and Anthony will be giving an overview there. Then you'll hear from Stephani, who will talk about the mission at Cowley College, their challenges, their partnership with Blackboard and the solution they came across, and then their results, which I'm sure is one of the reasons you're all here today. Then we'll have a live demo of Blackboard's help desk services, and as I said, we'll have some Q&A at the end. If for some reason we run out of time, we will follow up on all of the answers to you individually. And before I kick it over to Anthony, I wanted to get a better sense of who we have joining us today. So we are going to do a set of a couple of poll questions for the next minute. So with that polling function, if you want to hit the green X for yes or the red X for no, we're going to do our first one of 5. So the first one is pretty simple. Do you have one centralized help desk operation for your technology at your institution? So I'll give you about 15 seconds to mark that. And it looks like this one is almost overwhelmingly, except for a couple that, yes, you do have some centralized help desk operations at your institution. So we may follow up some more questions for you, Deborah and Harmony, who don't in our Q&A about the different challenges there that you may have for the two of you that don't. All right, let's go to our next poll question. So what hours are you currently offering live technical support? And we'll let me go and change the polling. So 1 second. Now you can answer. So A is 9 to 5, B, weekdays and weekday nights, or C, 24/7. So again, what hours are you currently offering live technical support? And we'll give this one about another 10 seconds. And I'm actually going to publish this one to the whiteboard so we all can see it more visually, because I think it's interesting. So it looks like about half of you are providing support 9 to 5. A couple of you are doing both the full days and weeknights, and then there is about a quarter of you doing 24/7. So again, there'll probably be some good discussion there around in our Q&A or just questions in the chat, since you're coming from different support perspectives. Okay, great. Next, another yes or no question. So do you offer self-service options such as password reset or online help? Looks like everyone's responding pretty quickly to this one. So again, it looks like most of you are in that yes category. And we have just a couple in the no category. Okay, great. Okay, next, another yes or no question. Does your institution have growth goals around online learning and or non-traditional students? So whether you're trying to grow your online learning program or you're reaching out more toward the non-traditional student. Okay, good. So it looks like most of you are, which is definitely something we're finding when I know myself or my colleagues talk to institutions. So it's definitely something that we see in the field, and looks like you all are agreeing with that. So for our last question, I hope some of you are bummed it's our last question. So this one is, would you say your users, so depending on who you're serving, whether it's student, faculty, and or staff, are happy with the support service they are receiving? And some of you may be in a position where you may not know, may not be able to answer this question, but if you are, do you think they're happy and satisfied? And this may be also, we'll maybe bring this back up at the end as well, so maybe the ones that are saying they're happy, since there are quite a few of you, could share maybe best practices or what you're doing for those who are struggling, because we definitely want sharing, and best practices to be learned as a result of this webinar. Okay, great. Well, thank you all so much for being such great poll takers and interactive with me, so I really appreciate that. And I'll probably follow up with these questions in our Q&A, so I'm excited for that. But now I'm going to turn it over to Anthony, who's going to kind of set the stage for us and talk about the expectations of today's students and faculty.
Well, great. Thanks, Lauren, and please let me know if you guys can't hear me. As Lauren said, I am very passionate about what I do, and this is my, I guess 25th year in higher ed. Most of my time was spent in the community colleges and the Cal State system in California. So I now live in the DC area, but I want to say hello to lots of friends, it looks like, from across the country. We've got some folks from CSUSB, some folks from UMBC near me, a few from Miami-Dade, and some from as far away as Hawaii Pacific. So welcome, everybody. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're located, and let's get started. What I thought I would do is level set us today on a little bit about what the students and faculty are expecting. And in this case, I am going to lump them together. I know they're two very different groups, but in some ways, they have expectations that are very similar. Today, there's been obviously a very large movement towards consumerism. And when I say consumerism, it really is the student saying, I have certain expectations from my institution of higher education, and frankly, I don't expect those expectations to be met. I really, frankly, demand those expectations to be met. Unless we think that students are onerous or difficult to meet expectations, aren't we the same way, right? Whether we're purchasing something on Amazon or Zappos or going to the Genius Bar at an Apple store, all of us have very high expectations, and frankly, as the consumer, we should. What also is interesting that is somewhat recent is that, again, students are looking at higher education as a consumer product. We know, all of us in higher ed know that higher ed is very complex, has many facets, and is very critical. But students really, in more and more cases, are seeing it as a pathway to a success they're looking forward to. I'll give you a very quick story, and that story is about my son named Grant, who is a college student at Whittier College in Southern California. He's a senior now, but I remember when he was looking for different institutions when he was a high school senior, and he said, "Dad, I really want to work at something like the World Bank or the State Department." And I said, "Well, Grant, that's really a wonderful opportunity, but that's a very finite job market. Let's try to expand your horizons and be a little broader." So what we really came to was that he loved languages. And what we found with students is that students really are putting their desired goals first, meaning what their job is first, before even a degree. They're really looking for that pathway, kind of the TD Bank commercial, if you will, the green line that lights up on the pavement that shows them which way to go. Students absolutely want choices today, but they'd like to have a pathway illustrated. My son was no different, but he needed help in finding what that pathway was. In his case, his gift was languages. So given that he had said he wanted to work at the World Bank or the State Department, and he has a gift for languages, specifically he's fluent in Chinese and French, that was a natural match. So what then I had to do was link him to an institution like Whittier that had very rich study abroad opportunities, but also very focused on languages. So we'll see, truth to be told, we'll see what happens this June. He's scheduled to graduate this June and has a few offers already, but we'll see where he lands. The bottom line is students really are the consumer. They're very tech savvy. In many cases, once a student makes a selection of an institution based on the degree they're pursuing or their certificate they want, the very next decision may be something as mundane as, how easy is it for me to show up on campus and get connected right away? Right? I come with my printer, my iPad, my laptop. I just want it all to work, is what so many students used to tell me when I was at the Cal State system or the community college system in California. They're also, of course, seeking options. They're very focused on skills and competencies, as I've talked about, and they're also, of course, very value and outcomes focused, meaning they're keenly aware of what they or their parents or financial aid is paying in terms of tuition, and they're absolutely demanding a level of service that, frankly, they should, and that all of us should strive to meet and exceed. The next meta trend is really around the concept of a service gap. Again, it's been a number of years, probably about 8 or 9 years since I've been at a college campus, whether that's as a dean of students or a financial aid director. But students in my day were earlier in this cone. There was a much smaller service gap width. Today, there's a much, much wider gap. We're clearly out at the ends of those arrows, where there's a very, very wide service gap from your ability to meet those demands, either with the same or diminishing resources, and those demands, frankly, outpacing many of those resources that institutions have. And this is true really whether we're talking about IT help desk services or any of the other student or faculty services out there. Now, again, I've been focusing mainly on students, but keep in mind that faculty are just or more demanding than students are. We'll talk at the end about one of our current clients, Georgetown University, a very, very elite institution that has very, very high expectations from their faculty in terms of every level of service they receive, whether that's teaching and learning support in whatever learning management system they may have, or getting support from an in-house or outsourced IT help desk. So that service gap is really doing nothing but getting wider and wider as students and faculty are demanding more and more. It really is putting almost an unbearable load on IT staffs across the country. The next kind of meta trend that I'd like to highlight is really the traditional versus today's pathway. In the traditional pathway, students are used to sort of, back when I went to college, maybe in the early 90s, I would show up and I'd be directed to the arena for registration. I'd then be directed to the faculty member to beg to be led into the course, maybe then to the registrar, the financial aid office, the admissions office, etc. That really is kind of the traditional pathway. It's the pathway that students are absolutely rejecting and are demanding to be more like a streamlined pathway. And what I mean here in the streamlined pathway is that students really should only have to choose the method and the mode of their communication. And what I mean by that is really the two choices that you see here. Either I should choose to solve the problem myself with technology, whether that's a knowledge base, a password reset automated tool, or using an IVR system, or I want to reach out. The issue really should not be the student having to figure out who to reach out to. So one other quick story that my boss loves to tell, and that is absolutely true, when he started at University of Maryland, one of the things that he received on his first day of classes as a student was actually a telephone directory. And that telephone directory, of course, had a phone number in it for IT support, a phone number for FA, a phone number for business office. And he was basically told, if you have a question, figure out what that question pertains to, and then call someone. Right, well, that's certainly a little bit of an outdated approach, but so many institutions that we work with today unfortunately use that same approach. Students or faculty member, here is your directory of telephone numbers, call someone when you need help. And really the idea is to be much more like this model with your students or your faculty. I only have to choose if I solve the problem myself with technology or if I want to reach out. And when I reach out, I either want to reach out by phone, live chat, text message, email. In other words, I expect the institution to provide me a mode of communication that I'm comfortable with. Now, you'll notice that I've said one word a lot here. I've said the word I, right? I want this, or I as a student. And the bottom line is that is the fact of today's world in higher education. Whether it's the student or the instructor, it really is all about them. And frankly, it should be. If you're the student, you're the customer. If you're the instructor, you're the one providing the very fabric of the service that those students are there for, right? So two very critical kind of constituencies that need to be served in a much better way than most are being served today. I thought what was interesting very quickly, and then I'll turn it over to Stephanie in a moment, the survey responses, nearly 21 of the institutions attending had said, yes, online growth and non-traditional students basically are an important focus for us going forward as an institution. I think that's great, and it's great that institutions realize that. But the downside, the challenge to that is that those two types of students require an even higher level of connectedness, an even higher level of expectation and technology sort of expectation. So anyway, just thought I'd give you those quick meta trends. What I'd love to do now is turn it over to frankly, one of your colleagues, Stephani from Cowley College.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see everybody here with us, and I'm really excited to sort of share our experience and our recent efforts with you. I hope that you can all see and hear me clearly. I know I was a little muted earlier. If you would just give me a hands up to let me know that everybody's good to go with their audio. Perfect. Looks good. So here at Cowley, and of course I know across everyone's mind is running this question. Where is Cowley? And we're used to this question, so I came prepared today. If you're familiar at all with Kansas City, you'll see in the upper right-hand corner there, Kansas City, and then a little in this lower left quadrant is Wichita. And you'll see a white star outlined in orange. That is our Mulvane Center, which is one of our satellite campuses. And then the bright orange star there on the lower edge is our largest campus, the campus that we've been around in for 92 years, the Arc City campus. And we do refer to it as our Kansas City here in Kansas. I know that's a little hard to swallow for anyone who might be joining us from southern regions, but that is how we pronounce it. So no offense intended, that's just how it rolls here in Kansas. Looks like there we go. So here at Cowley, our mission is being committed to learning excellent personal enrichment in an open access environment. We are a public institution, two-year institution. Many of you I think are familiar with that. But from a student instructional support perspective, what that means is that we strive every day to provide our curriculum in an accessible format, in an environment that promotes individual growth and personal enrichment. In addition, we are committed to facilitating academic growth and the development of technical comprehension and efficacy. For the online team, one of the things that we looked at a couple of years ago, in addition to what Anthony said a minute ago, is that our students are the consumers. Are we really meeting their needs? And even more granularly, are we meeting our accreditation requirements? And I know that according to the numbers, the poll that Lauren ran earlier, that a great number of you are using a centralized help desk. What our help desk faced before our current 24/7, 365 support was an increased number of online students. We grew exponentially from 2005. Students across multiple time zones, so they were now hitting our network at 3 a.m., 6 a.m., not just during the 9 to 5 hours of the day. were we really meeting them by accreditation standards in the 24/7 way that we indicated that we were? Sure, they could submit a ticket, but when were they being responded to? In terms of staff and resources, were our resources being used in the most effective way to address what were really minor issues, or were we utilizing them inefficiently and therefore having less time to devote to development and training, attending to those minor issues? For our students, this equated this inefficient model, which my phrase, one of the phrases that I use a lot is inconsistency breeds inefficiency. So for our students, this inefficiency resulted in unresolved tickets, nearly 100 voicemails per hour, long hold times, dissatisfaction, as I'm sure you can imagine, and a backlog of emails. And I'll show you sort of what that looked like in our communication system, in our support system in the next slide. In pure numbers of faculty, I think Anthony referred to this as the service gap. Our growth brought us to 200 plus faculty to an online team of 3. When we talk about a centralized help desk, for us, our IT and our online team are 2 different things, and they weren't even at that time reporting and are still not reporting to the same department. And so the faculty report to a different department. So they were seriously outnumbered in terms of 24/7 support. They were getting a lack of consistency in response time and content. They were unsure of who to contact for what type of issues, and to say that they were very dependent on our online and IT for these types of responses and resources would probably be a very serious understatement. When Blackboard came to us, I said the next slide, sorry, it's the one after this. When Blackboard came to us in December of this last year, we were at a place in our inefficiency that could not have been more perfect for what they were proposing. We were literally at our wits' end, spread thinly in being able to respond and meet the needs of our faculty and our students. And so what they proposed was an approach that included not just an increase of resources that we were unable from an institutional level to provide. They were going to augment the staff that we had at a very lean number with their very well-trained professional advisors at a Tier 1 and Tier 2 level, and I'll explain more what that means for us here in a minute. They were going to provide technology with a ticketing knowledge base and self-service, and they're also going to provide metrics to help us drive some decision-making, which up until that point, we literally had virtually been unable to do. Now, sure, we could pull how many tickets came in, what time did they come in, what subject, but we had no control over how the students entered subjects on those tickets many times. So it was not a well-driven, granular reporting system that we had. So we decided in December of 2013 to partner with Blackboard and deliver this world-class service to our students, faculty, and staff. And of course, I mentioned they approached us in December. I should also mention that we launched January 3rd. So we really didn't give them much time to think about what they'd proposed. We just took them up on it immediately. We relied on their team to do the following: live student and faculty support. So when I say Tier 1 and Tier 2, what they have helped us develop is a Tier 1 response for largely our student tickets, student needs, and they can call in by, as Anthony mentioned, a variety of method or mode of options for their pathway of content. They choose those pathways of communication to get their needs met. And then the Tier 2 is devoted and dedicated purely for our faculty support. Up until January 3rd, our faculty were getting their needs and answers met primarily through our online team of 3. And so in in addition to trying to meet all of the technology needs and training at our institution, we were also trying to answer those day-to-day, how do I, where do I, what happened, what did I delete? I know you guys have never heard these things before from your faculty, I'm sure, but, or never deleted anything. I know I never have. Please hear the sarcasm in my voice. But those things happen and someone has to answer them, and for us it was our team of 3, and they tried diligently to answer those questions, but it's really hard, as I'm sure you can imagine, to get through the tasks at hand that keep the institution functioning when you need to support your faculty the way they need and deserve to be supported. So Tier 2 now provides that dedicated support to our faculty, again, through several method and mode options that they get to select themselves. One very special way that they have decided that they like very, very much, and I will show you that as well here in a minute. The self-service technology, including password resets, which is fairly new. We did not implement that right away, but that very quickly has become something for us that is a huge benefit, something that the students were calling in consistently for, and something that we did not have in place. And so that is something that they're providing for us. And along with that, they have a self-help portal. The business intelligent reporting, really what that for us, in addition to finding out what the students are asking about and what time they're calling, what their specific needs are, but in addition to that, the business intelligence reporting really is also giving us faculty training forecasting. The Tier 2 support that Blackboard is providing for us now gives us the ability not just to train our faculty in what we think they need, but literally to respond to what it is that they're calling and asking for. They are not asked to call back during regular hours. This is a 24/7 support that support provides for them. So they are there, Tier 1 is there 24/7, literally. The only time that there may be a call back is if they are disconnected, if the student needs to disconnect for some reason, and Tier 1 support for those students are diligent and vigilant in returning or reconnecting with those students. And all of those things are documented for us. Did that answer your question, Joe? Okay, sorry. I'll try and clarify if I can. So here is our support center for the students. And as you can see, the students or the faculty, when they log in, you can see that there is a knowledge base for the students to search. So if they choose, instead of connecting right away with support, they can search questions that have already been asked. They can submit a request or a ticket, find out how to contact someone by phone. They can live chat. And our faculty can actually schedule an appointment with the Tier 2 support, which we call by their first names. We introduce them to our faculty by their first names as part of our staff. They literally know our Tier 2 people as part of the online team. And they refer to them by their first names, which is incredible for us. Just to give you an idea, in September of 2013, and I'm comparing a little bit of Apple's Granny Smith to Apple's Golden Delicious just because I didn't have August 2013 data. So I'm doing September 2013 to August of 2012, but I think it'll still give you a really good reflection of where we came from. In 2013, we were working with Wonderdesk Parature, and the top bar graph that you see there indicates calls and tickets that were coming in, emails that were coming in from a variety of sources and being disseminated to a number of people, including a part-time person that we had picking up emails and tickets and answering them as she had time, not at a scheduled time, but as she had time. The graph or the spreadsheet on the lower right-hand side, that was largely being handled by Presidium. who they were 24/7, but these were, again, the students were not being driven to Presidium. Most of the tickets were coming in through WonderDesk and Parature. They were also coming into our IT department. They were coming into their faculty. They were coming into online. So the numbers that you see here were really only a small reflection of the actual calls and tickets that we were getting. It was very random. I'm going to go back to this. So if you look at these numbers, overall, we're looking at just about just over 200 roughly calls in September of 2013. We made this change on January 3rd. And as we started to settle in and get comfortable in this relationship, we were told that we, in the midst of our LMS selection, instead of taking 18 months to migrate to Blackboard Learn, we would do that in a full-on migration by fall. So this partnership could not have come at a more fortuitous time for us. We did all of our resource allocations, all of the GUI admin trainings that we could, project planning in April, intensive team trainings April 23rd. This is about as fast track as it comes. And then we launch and go live August 14th. So the numbers that you see next shouldn't really surprise you with all of that in mind, that in August of this year, we gave, in August, our students and our faculty the contact of student support. That is your contact for anything. Whatever you need, that is your point of contact. It's not IT. It's not the online team. It is Tier 1 and Tier 2. So now we have 717 coming to us in a single month. But I can say with great confidence that they're not coming in, and I'm not getting phone calls from students where I was before. I'm not getting emails from students. I know with the utmost confidence that all of these contacts are being driven through that support portal. And we meet with them every 2 weeks. We talk about issues. They're supportive in ways that we couldn't even have imagined. This is a really good example of that. When we talk about being able to forecast training, forecast student needs, this is one of the ways that we can get really granular in the ways that we address their needs and their issues. They are Julie is our she is our LMS system admin, and she can speak to the amount of time. In fact, we just had a team meeting on Friday, and we were talking about how, having done this migration once before with a much lower number of courses and many fewer instructors, how significant the support that we've gotten from support services has been to us in terms of allowing us to do what we need to do, not just to get through what has been the fastest migration on record, but to get through the things that we need to get through on a daily basis in terms of training and onboarding new instructors. We're a Quality Matters institution, so Quality Matters training, master course preparations, and all of the things that you have to do on a daily basis. So being able to take those things off of our plate and know that your student and instructor needs are being met in a very, very sufficient way. That's a very good feeling for us as an online team. And I believe that is the end of my slides, other than my advice, which is, having a really good PIP crew, which Eddie Andreo is our director for online learning, Julie is our LMS system admin, and then Paula, our online learning coordinator, and they're invaluable in our online team. And then the folks at, which I didn't list Lauren, and Lauren's been very patient with me the last several weeks, but these are just a few of the folks that have been invaluable to us in this process.
Great, thank you, Stephanie. And I know, oh, and Stephanie has her contact information here, which she's graciously giving you all in case you have additional questions. But we'll also come back to Stephanie at the end at our Q&A. So think of questions you might have for her, or of her migration, or how they used our services, if you have any questions regarding that, or additional questions about the type of support that Stephanie is using. I know we answered the couple questions before in the chat. And now we're going to turn it back over to Anthony, who's going to talk a little bit more about help desk services and then give an overview of the technology.
Well, great. Thanks, Lauren, and especially thank you, Stephanie. I think, you know, Stephanie's comments and even Julie's comments in the chat window are just so very common for what we hear once clients are live. I think there was a question earlier kind of about what do we support. From a help desk perspective, IT help desk perspective, we certainly support everything throughout kind of the student life cycle. We also do support in financial aid, admissions, records, and registration. So we function just like staff do at the counters in those offices, but I know today we're more focused on IT help desk. So what I thought I'd do is just show you the three main buckets of where most of our support falls in, whether it's LMS support, and that's really whether it's Blackboard Learn, whether that's Instructure, whether that's D2L. We kind of look at ourselves in our division as being LMS agnostic, if you will. We certainly know our own products at Blackboard Learn very well, but we know the products across the e-learning landscape very well also. So that's kind of the first bucket. The second bucket is really around hardware and software support. So things around my media player isn't working, or I need support with Microsoft Office. All of those things from the simple to the complex fall into that bucket. Back to LMS just briefly as well, we also, as Julie and Stephanie mentioned, we do a great deal of hand-holding, and I will dare say faculty hand-holding. We do a large amount of that. Things like I'm a new faculty member or an adjunct faculty member, how do I upload my course? How do I enter grades? Even those are the simple questions, but more advanced questions in terms of course design and such. So we can really help with all of those areas. The third and final area really is network and connectivity support. Those are things like, why is my Wi-Fi down? Why is my printer not working? Password resets, automated or manual. So I know that's a very high-level list of what we do, but we support, as Lauren said, literally hundreds and hundreds of common applications out there, whether it's from, you know, LDAP directory authentication or to how do I do something in Learn or in PowerPoint. It really runs the gamut. So I thought I'd just give you that background. And again, of course, that's 24/7 by 365. We don't get many faculty questions after about midnight, but we get an enormous number of student questions after midnight because that's when so many students are doing homework, trying to submit that homework through Learn or any other system, and or logging into the ERP system on campus and they forgot their password. So much of our business from the student side comes after hours, certainly after midnight, but a great deal of our support from faculty, of course, comes during the courses they may be teaching in, because we certainly do have a queue for faculty that are literally in front of the classroom and Wi-Fi goes down, to faculty that are in their office hours or in their normal course of their duties performing operations that they have questions about. So I thought I'd just kind of give you that quick overview. What I'm going to do now is transition to a very quick demo. This is just kind of a placeholder, but I'll pull up our live account in a second so you can see what it looks like from both a student view and then also very quickly from what it looks like from one of our advisor views as well. So I'm going to share my screen. Let me know if you don't see a new window in just a moment. So I'm going to share my desktop. And what you should see now is an MU, or Monument University, page. And this is actually our student self-help portal. So please do let me know in chat if you can't see that for some reason, but I'll assume that things are working well. And what this portal really is a place for a student to get very complex answers, very simple answers, I guess, to very complex problems. So something as simple as I need to do a password reset, of course, is automated. I think most of you on the phone already mentioned that you have password reset functionality, so I won't spend much time there. But clearly the ability for a student to come in and reset my password, it's all single sign-on, so of course that can be passed from this system to a PeopleSoft, Banner, Cowley, Genzabar system, and then of course to any other learning management system, anything that you have connected to your single sign-on authentication process. So that's one tool. The other tools that we have, of course, is the ability for a student to help themselves. So if a student comes in and says, I have a question about my printer, they can type that here. The concept there is it's predictive text, and it'll give them some options. But they can certainly look for their own solutions if so many students would like to, or kind of search down here by topic what those are. The last thing that we do on the portal, of course, is give institutions and students choices. The top help topics, if there are no institutional default set, will render whatever the student's most related articles are to what they've searched for in the past. So this will always be dynamic, but again, it's a rolling knowledge base of whatever those top help topics are. It also allows the institution, however, to drive the presentation of topics as well. So if it's near grading periods for faculty, you may want to push out to the very top, how to enter grades and learn, how to create a course or a course section and learn. If it's for students, certainly, how do I look at my grades? How do I apply for financial aid, for example? Or Wi-Fi is down, what do I do to reset that? So we can help you push your desired content to students or faculty and staff as well. The last thing I thought I'd show you very quickly, once a student authenticates, of course, it then greets them and says, welcome, Andrew, you can track your personal progress here. These are things that are a little bit outside the help desk area for IT services, but I thought I'd show them to you briefly. These really are the idea of showing really a kind of the FedEx package tracker of the higher ed world. So where am I as a student in the application process? Where may I be in the financial aid process if I'm a student? What documents are missing specific to me? Because again, this is reading directly from an institution's ERP system. And then the other most common question, of course, is relating to refunds or a bill that's due. The other area that we see a lot of students have questions on are their help topics or their tickets. And what so many students, of course, forget is that they may have asked that question in the past. So we give them a full and complete history of every help topic they've ever had. We can filter this list based on the institution's desire, whether that may be the last 30 days or 7 days of content, float the new ones to the top and the closed items to the bottom. But it gives a student a full and complete history of every time they've reached out for support, whether that's a student or a faculty member. They can see that summary as well. And then maybe even more importantly is have a chance to give a very quick but very targeted feedback, a 3-question response to every single interaction that we may be taking on your behalf. And the idea here, again, is to provide full transparency to the institution as to the types of service engagements that we're having with your students or your faculty on a given day or week or month. But you can see it's very straightforward. It's 3 questions. It really says basically rate your satisfaction with the experience, rate your satisfaction with the time required to resolve your request, and then fill us in on any other comments that you may have. Because what we have found is that those 3 questions are the most important. When you boil it down, at the end of the day, did I get the answer that I needed, and did I get it in a quick and efficient manner? Those are really the 2 litmus tests that we have found the most critical. So that's the student-facing section of the portal. Of course, a student can also create a ticket. Say I'm a student or a faculty member. I can then detail what my problem is because, again, I'm authenticated, so this is not a generic email. This is an authenticated student. But more importantly, I can also attach a document, for example. If the student saw that they are missing a document, or the faculty member is a new hire and they forgot to attach their medical form. Whatever the case may be, those documents can be attached and then submitted as a ticket and routed with workflow. So everything is an automated process, whether it goes to us as a level 1 or a level 2 issue, or directly to an institution in a very specific issue. And a common issue there would be a printer needs to physically be rebooted. Right? That's something that no one can do virtually unless we can walk the student or the staff member through it or faculty member through it. But in the case where maybe they want someone to come help them in person, we can create a level 3 escalation that goes directly to your current IT help desk staff. So any questions on that? That's really the majority of what our portal looks like. That's meant to be kind of a forward-facing portal for students, really to get answers to questions on any number of topics. It's also meant to be very much a responsive design. So if I'm on an iPhone and you can see here that I'm shrinking my screen down, it automatically renders to a view that is much more friendly to an iPhone than it would be to, for example, a laptop or an iPad. So it is more of a responsive design approach. The last thing I thought I'd show you very quickly, as I know we're running out of time and winding down our time together, this is our tool called the Advisor Desktop. This is how we answer questions from students and faculty behind the scenes. So we have roughly 4 call centers, operation centers throughout the United States. One's in Phoenix, one's in Lexington, one's in Greenville, South Carolina, and the other's in Killeen, Texas. All of our operation centers, of course, are US-based for a very good reason. But all of those centers are using this tool so that when a caller does call in or live chat or text, that unique ID is what's driving our system to go out and pull data, in this case, from the institution's ERP, if needed, their SIS, for example. I can see the student's tracker. I can see the student's service indicators in terms of holds. In this case, the student has an outstanding hold. But more importantly, I can also see things like the student account balance and tell a student that they have a $500 refund. I may also need to look, if it's a faculty member, as to what students are in their classes. And I can tell that in this Biology 101 section what students are there and where that class may be. So we integrate to not only the ERP, but also to the LMS. So again, whether it's Blackboard or Canvas or D2L, we're LMS agnostic. We'll integrate to any of those tools because they have APIs. And then we also integrate to a ticketing system and to a knowledge base. So the idea is one system for our advisors to use can literally reach out across the entire campus to provide a very full and complete answer to a faculty member or to a student. So that was really the end of the demo. I'm not sure if anyone has any questions, but I'm going to end with that, and I'm going to transition back to our actual PowerPoint and end with a little slide about Georgetown. So give me just a moment, and I will move right back to here, which is our, thank you very much, Lauren, back to our PowerPoint. So the last thing I thought I'd share with everyone is an example of, you certainly heard from Cowley and from Stephani. Here's an example of Georgetown. Certainly, you know, an institution maybe not that unlike some of you on the phone, not terribly large, but certainly large enough, but faculty that are extraordinarily demanding. And the students that go with them. So here are some of the results that we've been able to deliver for Georgetown. They really had an issue where they wanted their brand, their kind of brand was their supreme issue. Thou shalt not damage the Georgetown brand was basically the word from their CIO. And we were very keenly aware of that brand. So we act as if we're a Georgetown staff member, and we serve that student and faculty member to the utmost level that we can. And you can see some of the results that we've been able to achieve, about a 91% faculty satisfaction rating, a net promoter score, which is similar to what Amazon and Apple are using at 64. Really, anything over 60 is considered exemplary customer service. And then some more of the call center statistics there, but a 96% answer rate and an 87% first call resolution rate. I think at the end of the day, it really all boils down to the quote from, you know, Sandra Horvath-Peterson, one of the faculty members at Georgetown, right? So many faculty may be a bit, quote, all thumbs. Some are very technology savvy. But the bottom line is she was very grateful to the person that happened to help her, in this case, a young lady that was able to help her and give very patient feedback and support to her, whether it's at 2 a.m. on a Sunday or at 5 p.m. on a Friday. So we're going to end with that. I'm going to turn it back over to Lauren and the team for Q&A.
Great. Thanks so much, Anthony. Great demo. And again, if you have questions about what you just saw Anthony present, feel free to write those into the chat. I'll also take off or open up the audio privileges right now. So if you do have a question, raise your hand, and we will call on you, or feel free to type in the chat. And I had a few questions. Because I don't see anyone typing right now, just to go back to our poll questions in the beginning and just hearing everything that we heard today, you know, in terms of, you know, what does this make you think about? So for those of you who do have the centralized help desk and you do have the self-service, you know, is that sufficient enough for you? Do you find that, you know, you're able to then scale and talk to all your faculty? I know there were some questions before about hold times, and I'm not sure if, Unify, if that was from, you know, an internal wait time, a company you were using with your wait time, or what was happening there. Do others experience that? Just kind of general thoughts. And again, I would recommend, you know, Stephani along with Julie and Eddie are here, all from Cowley, so definitely pick their brain, you know, definitely about, you know, their level of service from Blackboard, or just, you know, best practices in general about, you know, help desk services and technology. So open board, let us know your questions or jump on the mic.
So Lauren, this is Anthony. I thought I'd give one quick feedback in terms of the question that was posted earlier in the chat. Yeah, there really should never be a case where there's that long of a wait time, but more importantly, we have tools that are designed to manage all of those queues. And some of those tools are things that all of us are used to when we may contact, for example, any of the number of our customer service entities that we call, whether it's our bank or others. So instructors can certainly say, I want help right now, and I want to get directly to an individual. For example, I'm in front of class and Wi-Fi is down. But they can also do things like, I'd like to be called at exactly 3:05 p.m. to answer this specific question. So we always are certainly telling them what that wait time may be, if there is one, and then always giving them the opportunity to key in when they would like to be called, if they would not to wait. They would like to not wait, whether that's 1 minute or 2 minutes for an answer. So I thought I'd just throw that out there as well.
Great, and then Anthony, I'm going to defer. We got 2 questions popped up in the chat. So if you wanted to talk a little bit about maybe some benchmarks around cost, that might have to be an overall conversation with an account rep, or Anthony, maybe you can talk about that.
Yeah, so maybe I'll try to address both questions. In terms of being curious about costs, certainly that's a normal question. We tend to offer pricing in a model that is really you're charged for what you're using, if you will. So all of our costs are basically driven around meeting with you, looking at your kind of your volume that you've experienced in the past, and then making a leap to where we think your volume will be. And here's the reason we do that. Many institutions have an internal help desk today, nearly every one of them. And some of them are very successful and some of them are not. We worked with institutions, frankly, that tend to be in the middle, where, like Cowley, right, things are going fairly well, but you're feeling like the water is creeping up from your chest to your neck to just below your nose, right? So many of the institutions are in that boat. They're not fundamentally broken, but they're also not radically successful in terms of supporting that volume. So we work with those institutions quite a bit. And the idea around the costs, of course, we typically will come in and estimate costs at a much lower level than your current call volume is. And that's because whether you're using an automated password reset tool or trackers or other really strong, robust self-service tools, we know that somewhere between 20 to 25% of those calls can probably be handled in a self-service environment with a student or a faculty member if they were given that opportunity. So typically what drives cost, the most important thing that drives cost, of course, is call volume. But typically our goal is to drive down call volume levels, not up, because so many students and many faculty do want things quickly answered and able to find them on their own. But when something is serious and critical, they absolutely want to reach out, whether it's live chat or phone. So that's kind of where I can maybe address the question that was posed at 354. The second question from John, great question. We do offer different levels of support. We offer kind of a menu approach. We can offer help desk support for just students, for students and faculty, or for students, staff, and faculty. So we can really serve any number of constituents that you would like. Many institutions will start with one and then expand to the other. Typically, they'll start with IT help desk for faculty or students first, because those are the two that they're trying to serve in a most successful way. They then will add staff, and then typically down the road, they may add one of our other services around financial aid support, or student accounts, or read your records. So we do offer that kind of very menu-driven approach where everyone certainly gets a portal, but you may or may not need a password reset tool. You may have a tool that is your own, and we'll certainly integrate to that. So our goals are to absolutely keep costs down by reusing whatever tools that you feel are successful and in place already. So if you do have an automated password reset tool already, unless you feel a need to abandon that, we certainly will leverage that tool and integrate it into our solution as well. So hopefully I've answered your question, John.
I think you did, Anthony, and I just wanted to note, I put my email in the chat in response to the question about cost, and if anyone else is curious about specific costs, we're more than happy to have a conversation with you, so feel free to email me. Just put my email in the chat, and it'll be in the recording that I send out later today, too, and I can connect you with someone, because as Anthony said, talk about your needs and your volume and what you're expecting, so we can definitely go more in depth on that, and customize a solution that works for you.
Great. Lauren, maybe what I'll do is add one other quick expansion on John's question, because I think John had a really great question there. We certainly can also tailor support to be targeted, I think, to what you were saying, John, just for Blackboard maybe, or just for another learning management system, versus everything all at once as well. So please do know that we really can tailor the solution that we offer to whatever that institution's needs are. And more specifically, we can certainly mix and create a hybrid approach where we may take all of your learning management questions, but you want to handle technology questions, and those we can escalate through a ticket to the existing staff as well. So we're very open to kind of an all or nothing model, but we're also very open to a hybrid approach as well, where we leverage existing staff and existing resources.
And if I can just add here that not only is what Anthony said about true about helping with cost, they've made several suggestions to us about what we might do to bring costs down in the model that we currently have existing. But one of our biggest concerns moving to this partnership was, as always, we felt very parental about the support that we provide to our faculty. We knew that even though there weren't very many of us, that it was a very high quality support model, support system that we had. And so we were sort of handing over our very fragile faculty, and in a very short period of time, our extended team members proved to us that they were more than capable, more than knowledgeable, and in some cases more than knowledgeable in some areas than we were. And our faculty adore them and feel very, very, very capable and secure in calling them and contacting them and asking them questions.
Great, thanks, Stephanie, because I was actually going to go to you next about any closing thoughts, or I know Eddie or Jolie on the line. If you have any additional thoughts, feel free to chime in now. And then I also just moved the slide one up because we have another piece of collateral if you all would like to read more about other stories, besides Stephanie and Georgetown, about what you can do at the time. So it's definitely a great read. We just published this, so definitely excited if you want to download a copy of that. But we'll just take closing thoughts from this time from, again, our speakers or anyone from their teams on the call.
Well, I would say just don't hesitate to contact us. My team or I are more than happy to answer questions about our partnership or our migration, either one.
Great, thank you, Stephanie. And I'll also send out a copy of these presentation slides, so you'll have a copy of Stephanie's email in the PDF version. And with that, thank you everyone for joining today's call. I will be sending out the recording later today to anyone that did register, so you'll be able to access that and the presentation slides shortly. So again, thank you everyone for joining, and feel free to reach out to myself, again, or Stephanie if you need anything. And hopefully we'll see you online again.
Thank you very much.